Grunn is weird. I'm not talking about wacky, silly, slapstick weird. I'm talking, this feels like someone's dream or maybe a nightmare. It appears to be normal on the surface, but it has this hazy, ethereal quality to it that makes it kind of detached and ephemeral. It's not a huge game, but it's got plenty of things to do and many different strange things to experience. Grunn claims to be a normal game about gardening, so let's start with that in mind. It's Saturday. The bus is empty except for us, an odd coin, and a bus driver who just sort of mumbles. Can't tell what he's saying. From the very first interaction, it doesn't really seem like we're welcome or that we belong in this little town. And it's not really even a town, but it has a villa, a church, a convenience store, a port, and a park, among other smaller things. Most of the game is actually focused on gaining access to these areas. In fact, as soon as you get off the bus, you are greeted by a locked gate, which is sort of your first puzzle or mystery. It introduces you to the Polaroid system. Essentially, when you are missing something you need or you haven't figured out what you're supposed to do with an item or a place, the game gives you a picture of it, or the general area. It feels a bit like a serial killer sending you ransom notes with a picture of your kidnapped son, except that the photos are mostly things like keys or gardening tools. But like I said, the first picture is just to show you how things work around here. This one's just a picture of the rose bush right next to us, and the key we need on the ground. Very simple. It lets us cross this nice little walking bridge, and as soon as we do, a plank falls out, keeping us from going back, and then the bus leaves. So now we're trapped in this town, and more immediately, this little garden. But that's fine, right? Because we're here to garden anyway. The owner left a little note about what he wants us to do and a simple list to check off. It's an easy weekend job. The gardening shears are here, but all the other tools are missing, so we're not going to be able to clean up the garden just yet. Might as well look around and see what this place is like. There appears to be a public bathroom and several locked doors, keeping us in this small garden area. Nothing is too weird so far, except for the strange spot in the yard where the world becomes very bright and the sound is muted. But part of Grunn's charm is the slow reveal of the weird stuff, so we start off normal. We clip the hedges, we trim the grass, we pick up the trash. Someone is using the public bathroom and needs toilet paper. Can't help ya. Maybe I'll find some later. At this point, I still don't really know what to expect from this game, but it feels a bit too normal. I'm waiting for the other shoe to drop, to discover a corpse, or get jump scared, or accidentally kill myself. And all of these things will happen multiple times, but we'll get there. After I worked in the garden for a bit, a magpie showed up with a loud magpie noise, letting you know it's there now. It's in the nest that was conspicuously next to the shed. There's now a note in the nest, and you can read it. It appears to be from the previous gardener. It mentions a rotten plank in the fence, so we're just gonna bust right through that and go into this other part of the garden that we're not supposed to be in. The grass here is nicely trimmed, which is great because I'm not here to garden, I'm here to trespass. There's a car back here, rotting away uselessly. There doesn't even seem to be a way for it to have gotten here, which kind of lends more credence to that feeling of a dream, or maybe like an AI image of a nice house with no roads leading to it. In the trunk, there's a mallet, which isn't that strange, but again, feels a bit like something that a serial killer would do, given that this car clearly never goes anywhere. And then there's this door into the back of the house. Do I have a reason to go in here? Not really, and the note said not to, but why not take a peek? Maybe one of the tools I need is in there. It's kind of an empty storage room, and we can't get into the rest of the house, but there is a key here. It says it's to the garden gate, so we could actually leave the garden if we took it. But if you do take it, as you turn to leave, a strange man appears in the doorway and a scare chord plays, so it's kind of a jump scare, but not really. Then he shuts the door on you, which is just kind of rude. Am I going to be punished for trespassing and breaking into this house? Well, once I get outside, the man is gone, so I guess not. Again, this is unsettling, but still within the realm of normalcy. Before I leave the garden and go wandering around, might as well finish cutting the grass. Once you finish a task on the list, it gives you a couple coins out of nowhere, which are shown in the bottom left. F? Frank? I don't know. This game is Dutch, I think. There's a garden gnome over by the gate. I was given a Polaroid on it. Smashing it with the hammer makes an ominous laugh noise and gives us a coin. This feels like something I should not have done, like I've upset some sort of phase spirit, but it's still only a hint of supernatural elements, and they'll make themselves a lot more clear later. The gate key lets us escape from the garden and into the churchyard, which isn't really as much freedom as you might think. This area could use some gardening too, huh? Well, I don't think I'm being paid for that, but it certainly is overgrown. There's an old person sitting on a bench and they don't have anything useful to say. Also, some of the headstones are knocked over, but I can't fix that. The path to the park is blocked, and the gate at the far end of the churchyard is barred from the other side, and to top it all off, a notice says that the church is closed anyway. Nothing to do but garden, I suppose. There's large white flowers mixed in with the grass, and if you cut them, it makes a strange, ominous sound. Cutting several gave me the feeling that I shouldn't cut any more. I decide not to tempt fate at this time, but I do find a knob in the grass that fits the side door on the church. Should we go into this dark catacombs type area? Well, with nothing else to do, might as well. Not far in, I see a glimpse of the strange jump scare man again, accompanied by his scare cord. Maybe it's diegetic. But creepier than him, a little ways into the dark hallway, we find a human skeleton and a magic trumpet. Blowing on this causes a red ghost to appear, but it doesn't really do anything. It's just sitting there, and interacting with it immediately calms it down, turning it blue. There's ghosts in this town, and skeletons hidden under the church, but it's all apparently just not a big deal. You could tell the ghost to calm down, and it will. And then next to the ghost is a little snail that is racing towards the finish line. This is very silly. I can't actually even tell if it's moving. I'll come back later and check on him to see if he's made any progress. Finally leaving the basement of the church and emerging outside, I can almost forget that ghosts are real. I'm sure it won't come up again. From here, the church gate can be unbarred, creating a path. We're on the main road, which is to say, the only trafficked road in this place, but this end is blocked by fallen logs. When did this happen? I just got here this morning. Give me this coin. There's a small cornfield here. I pop in and wander around and eventually come across a small campsite. There's toilet paper here, so I just steal it. Because I'm trespassing everywhere and taking everything I can at this point. Why not this? I also take some corn for good measure. Coming out of the corn, there's a small gas station and a convenience store. There's a woman getting gas, but again, I cannot understand her. No one in this town can say anything helpful. Never mind, I'm wrong and a jerk because this guy clearly asked me for an egg ball. I step into the convenience store, but immediately hear that gnome laugh behind me. Now there's a lot of garden gnomes on the pavement behind me. How would a normal person handle situations like this? I immediately start smashing them with my hammer. If I've really angered some sort of fey spirit, it seems like I might as well just keep going. They make a trail all the way to the walking bridge that I crossed at the start of the game. I place the plank I found, fixing the bridge. There, I'm helping. I've done something helpful now. Maybe this will balance out all my thievery. In fact, to continue helping, I pop into the bathroom and I hand over the toilet paper to a grateful person. I hear a flush, and the door opens, but no one comes out, and there's this strange thin passage in the back wall. I squeeze into it, finding the leavings of what seems to be some sort of murder with a scythe. In the far back, there's a cowering and traumatized woman. There's nothing I can do for her, and no police to report this to, so I just take the strange blue coin next to her and leave. Just business as usual, I guess. The bizarre events are piling up, but I have no recourse. There's nothing I can do but keep playing. So I go back to exploring. If I want to finish gardening, I have to find the right tools. Down the road is a port with a massive boat. Why is it here? I don't know. Again, it can only be dream logic. Why would this tiny little spit of nothing, that's not even a town, have a big port with a giant boat? The interior of the boat is dark and filled with booths like a restaurant. A screen helpfully tells me that the food is snert again. There's two children just sitting in the dark down here with their bowl of snert. One child is sad and the other one's angry. This is a mystery I cannot solve, much like all the rest of them, so I just leave and go on. I head on down a nice little garden path, just taking it easy. I find a strange looking spot on the hedge, so I cut it open with my trimmers and create a shortcut into the garden. Now I wonder, if I were on another playthrough, could I use this knowledge to break out of the garden earlier and do different things? I feel like I've actually learned something useful. I keep going, and down the path I head across a small bridge to a tiny island with a stone structure on it. It's flooded in here, and there's a corpse of a man who's missing a hand. I can play my trumpet to summon his ghost and calm it, but it doesn't really seem to matter, and taking the trowel causes water to start flowing in. The gate plays a trick on you where it closes just before you get out and you have to run back and hit the lever. In moments such as these, I like to think about what it would sound like if I try to explain this game to someone who has no real conception of video games at all, like my grandmother. It would sound like utter nonsense and not really fun. However, I'm immersed. I'm having a lot of fun with the weird things in this town that make me want to find out more. I head down the path excitedly and am promptly killed by a dog. And this is when the loop of the game reveals itself. A ghost or trapped spirit tells you that there's an evil spirit in the form of a worm, and then you get one of 11 endings. You restart back on Saturday morning and go again. You can use the knowledge you've gained from previous loops to do better on later ones. From an overall point of view, the game is actually pretty short. In-game time runs from Saturday morning to Monday around noon if you don't die somehow, and a full loop takes less than an hour. In that time you can choose to pursue various goals like figuring out the mystery with the spirits, or actually doing the gardening, or a lot of other weird things that you just sort of have to figure out. Most of the achievements are given for solving an obscure Polaroid mystery of some kind, and of course, you can try to get other endings. A lot of them are really just other ways to die, and some of them are very simple, like doing the normal gardening and leaving on the bus on Monday, but some of them are very strange. One of them involves doing the full 100% gardening in the mansion garden, the churchyard, and the park. This will open up one of those thin little passages in each of those locations that you can go into and get a sandwich, a blanket, and a place to have a picnic. Having the picnic results in an ending, which doesn't really say much except that you had the picnic and nothing else happened. It's just Grunn being weird, and I love that. You see, sometimes weirdness for weirdness' sake is a virtue on its own. The worst thing that a game can do is be boring. It's gotta be fun or it's gotta be interesting, something to make you stick with it, and Grunn is really doing that for me. So I'm fully hooked after this first loop, and I throw myself into figuring out the mysteries of Grunn, and I learned about a lot of stuff. I learned how you can make it rain by tossing that weird blue coin in the well. This waters all the plants, which makes perfect sense. Watering all the plants makes this one door with a flower symbol on it open, and you can go in and get the flower gem and steal it from a bunch of gnomes. To the game, this is a logical progression of events, and so it makes sense. I spent some time cleaning up the park and found a special store inside of a hay bale. There's a little girl that'll sell you a compass, a golden medal, an office key, and a CD. Which of these are useful? It took me some time to really figure that out. On Sunday, the gas station convenience store is closed unless you have a hammer. Thievery and vandalism continue to be the best ways to accomplish things, and so you get in the back and start messing with the computer. Bizarrely, of course, the computer messes with the world itself, and it let me find an apple and go into a creepy dark woods place with a skeleton in it. On the other side is another computer, which you can turn off. There's also a book that talks about various town spirits, possibly mentioning the worm. We've got gnomes, a tall man, a child, a sort of a shy thing, and a worm. This is the most helpful lore dump I've gotten so far, and it really helps make sense of some things. It's also given me a clear goal. I need to go find all these different spirits and do something with them. Turns out my adventure through the computers has put me inside of the main house itself, where I'm not supposed to be. There's weird jump scares in here, and honestly, if I had to complain about the game, it's the jump scares. They're not really doing much for me. How deep is this freezer? Oh hey, I made popcorn. Like, a single popcorn. I steal a bone and the church key and I leave the house. I immediately go give the bone to the dog that killed me last loop, and he repays me by not murdering me. This lets me into a fishing shack where I can steal a toy boat. As usual, all of these things seem completely disconnected, but I'm starting to piece it together. I made the mistake of going into the maze in the main garden without the compass. The sign warns you not to, but I did it anyway, and I got killed by the tall man spirit. He's the one that's been following me and jump scaring me, and I think he killed the previous gardener, based on the note that I've seen, and the corpse of the previous gardener. On the next loop, I did bring the compass and eventually worked my way to the end of the maze. The tall man just sort of sits there, I guess defeated by the fact that you made it through the maze, and without anything else to do, I just sort of bashed him with my hammer. He turned into some sort of idol, and a little ways down the garden, I went into the gnome's house and I took another idol from them. It looks like maybe each spirit has one. Also, there's a skeleton in here. At this point, I was kind of at a loss, and I just sort of completed the day cycle normally and left for the bus. There's still a lot of different Polaroids left to solve. So, I started focusing on each Polaroid in my inventory, and I started putting things together, and I figured out that I needed to give the toy boat to the kids inside the real boat. This makes sense? Anyway, doing this makes the child spirit so angry that he becomes a totem. I grab that, and I figure I'm gonna need to get all the totems in one run at some point, so I'm just sort of filing away mental notes for all the things I'm gonna need to do. I then noticed that there was a bicycle next to the boat that I hadn't used before. This inexplicably took me to a place where it's night, and a nice couple lives there with their purified magic stone. Well, I figured I need that, so I set a nearby bale of hay on fire and I stole the stone. You know, normal stuff. With the 3 totems and the magic stone, I continued to chase even more of the mysteries. I got a Polaroid that told me I could get into the church at midnight. Well, I got the key from the house, so I did that. This little rural church is actually a creepy cathedral that's bigger on the inside, and it has an old lady that just sort of appears on a pew. I spent some time lighting all the candles here, but it really didn't do anything other than set the ambiance. So, there's a pulpit that has a gem slot in it, and the flower gem goes into it and causes a doorway to open. And in this basement, I find slots for 4 totems. I have 3, but nothing seems to happen after placing them. And when I get back outside, I get a game over for being outside too late. It says I get lost in the darkness. And at this point, I'm just flailing around. I find the worm using the apple and kill a bird with it. Then I kill a fisherman with it. And then I go to a weird island. On this weird island, I resurrect a dead goldfish. Did any of this have anything to do with the overall goals? Nope. I calm every ghost I can find, including the ghost of a woman who was murdered and shoved into a car's trunk. Did this help at all? Who knows? I painstakingly gathered 3 instruments and gave them to children on a Sunday afternoon so that they could play music in the park. Did this matter? Well, it seemed nice. I eventually played the magic horn in the main yard. This seemed to satisfy the spirit that had been labeled as shy, and I got its totem. I immediately rushed to the church basement and placed all the totems, and it caused the world to go insane. The sky was on fire, the earth shook, and the church was full of skeletons. The mansion was the only safe place, so I went in and spoke to the man from the endings, and he told me I was a fool for doing all that totem stuff, which seems rude. Also, apparently the world's gonna explode, my bad. He sent me to find his sword in the attic, but I also found 3 fragments of a soul, presumably his. With no time left to spare, I charged out of the house to fight the demon in the yard. Upon approaching it, I was told that the Holy Stone protected me, so I'm glad I picked it up. The demon goes down in 1 hit, and then the dude thanked me for fixing what I'd broken and also getting his soul, and I left. This was not the kind of story or conclusion I was expecting. Grunn goes all over the place and varies wildly in tone. And even though I've spoiled all of it, it really is an interesting journey. There's a lot of disconnected moments that are spooky, or interesting, or nice, or just plain weird, and honestly the lack of any sort of moral or overall theme just continues to lend it a dreamlike atmosphere. It really doesn't feel like it belongs together, but all the different parts do fit together. I think the gardening aspect of this game is a perfect central thread to sort of keep all of these pieces together, and I'd love to see another work by this dev. And here's a gold medal for the best character in the game.